Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second Jomba Forging Alliances panel. My name is Thobile Maphanga, and today I'm in conversation with Wesley Maherry and Thabo Pule as we connect the lines of production. I'm going to let my lovely conversationalists introduce themselves. Thabo, maybe you want to go first, and then Wesley can follow.
Hi, everyone. My name is Thabo Pule. I am a theater practitioner and I specialize in my field of specialty is sound and lighting. Sorry about that. Yep.
No problem. The work keeps going. Thanks, Thabo. Wes?
Hi, everyone. My name is Wesley Maherry. I'm a production manager at the Elizabeth Snedden Theatre. I am also the production manager for the Jomba Contemporary Dance Experience. I've worked in theatre in a variety of capacities for at least 20 years. And yeah, here we are. I do apologize if I look a bit shifty. I'm also hosting the stream, so I'm monitoring things all at the same time.
The multi-skills you have, Wes. Thank you so much for doing this for us and also for joining us. For those who are joining us for the first time, so if you weren't here yesterday for the conversation that we had, just to give you a brief idea of what the Forging Alliances platform is about, it is about connecting with industry, and just having very casual conversations about how they have perceived the situation of moving from very live to a digital platform, and what are some of the things we can learn from them about this very new space that we are in. So if I can just start is maybe Thabo, I know that you've been traveling quite a bit when we have all been stuck at home and kind of watching everything digitally. Do you maybe just want to let the audience know about your travels and what you've been working on?
I was fortunate enough, been working on two productions this year, actually. And then the first one, the first production I worked with, it was for Robin Orlin. And we were fortunate enough to create the work in Europe because, things were closed up at home. So they had to fly us to Europe, and then we were there for 5 weeks for the creation. And then we were fortunate enough to premiere it, that side, which, for me, it was cherry on top of the cake because, here at home, we do not have things like that, which is, sorry, what's happening?
Oh, so I think Thabo's a little bit busy, but that's really cool to also be working with a originally South African artist. So to still be creating those connections across the shores, which is really cool. You back, Thabo?
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. My phone is off, and I'm not answering any emails and everything. Yeah, I'm here with you. Sorry about that.
Cool, no problem. How long have you been working with Robin Orlin? Because I know that when I looked at your bio, you also mentioned that you've worked, this is not the first time that you work with Robin.
I've been working with Robin for the past 18 years.
Sure.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough. I met her when she did her last dance performance. Actually, I saw Robin perform. So after that, seeing her perform, I fell in love with her work. And then 3 years later, she called me, and I was ecstatic. And we started working together since then. And I've been touring with all her shows since, I would say, 2001, maybe. Yeah.
And sorry, so this is for me, because I'm nosy. But does Robin particularly enjoy working with South Africans because she's from here and she feels that our way of working is, specific to the kind of work that she's creating?
To be honest, she prefers to work with South Africans. She's rooted in South Africa, and works with South African performers, and not only dancers. They say, she works with South African musicians, dancers, actors, and singers. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And Wes, what have you been up to in this very digital time? Obviously, you are now working on Jomba, but I mean, you know, when the industry kind of closed down, a lot of places went under. We know that in Durban specifically, Black Coffee is no more. Stage management and all the like behind the scenes kind of stuff that happens was just as much affected as the performers. And I think sometimes when we think about this idea of like, we've gone into lockdown and we're not seeing the performers, we forget that there's a huge crew that exists outside maybe the 5 or 10 or 1 performer that goes onto stage, right?
No, 100%. I think that's been one of the real tragedies of the last year and a half. Because, yeah, I mean, as I said to you at the beginning, I mean, we've got 2 people here, usually behind the scenes, kind of stepping up to have a voice. But quite often people working backstage don't have that voice. And there were initiatives, things such as Feed the Crews and things that are still, but that's kind of, yeah, down the line now, it's getting harder and harder to kind of reimagine on what might happen. I've been also fortunate. I mean, I've luckily I shifted onto the digital quite early on, especially working on last year's Jomba, and most of my work has been online so far. I have been fortunate to do 2 outdoor dance events, which again is a kind of a step in the new direction. But yeah, mostly it's all been digital so far.
Yeah, and you know, you raise a very important thing is that like the digital shift over was very sudden. I mean, how's that learning curve been for you? Like all of a sudden having to learn new skills, figure out things, you know, how's it been?
I mean, I think we've always had to do that. I don't think we've ever had the luxury of just being able to do one thing. You're not just a lighting designer. You're not just, I think, even a performer these days. You talk about that jack of all trades. So I think we've always had to be learning new skills along the way. So when it hit, it was, okay, how are we going to do this? Watch what other people are doing, see what other festivals are doing, see what other companies are doing. And let's find a way that we can do it ourselves. And it's all been a learning curve. I'm still learning. I mean, what I'm doing today, I'm doing for the first time. So yeah, it's you got to embrace it and roll with it.
I think you're doing a fantastic job, Wes. I will say so for myself. But Thabo, have you gone into digital as well? And like, what have your kind of experiences been now that we don't have the live here at home?
Yep, true that. Thing about a year ago. I mean, I was fortunate enough. I did the what is it called? Let me think. We did the National Arts Jazz Festival online, which I mean, it was, to me, it was something new. And I knew even before the pandemic, yeah, people used to come in, do the camera things, and you know, set up the sound and go around, and having to shift from camera, you know, for the first time, which is something exciting. I was excited to do that, but it was something new. You know, I've never worked on camera before, but then I had to learn camera work, and I needed to be there, and then the digital stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think like Wesley's saying, you know, like we've all, and I think as artists, maybe we are better equipped sometimes to kind of be able to kind of shift ourselves. Like, you know, like we shape shift into the various kind of things that we need to do. So I'm going to like start to talk about the digital stuff. I'm going to start to ask you guys some of the things, because I'm a performer. I'm generally, if ever, you know, there's any production happening, I'm generally the person who's either on the stage but I'm never in the background. But what I've learned over the years is that the relationship between the performer and the technical crew is such a vital one, you know? So maybe you guys can help us as we are now starting to get more comfortable with the digital, as people are producing more and more work for digital. Perhaps you guys can give us a few tips. So previously, if you were coming into a theater and you had a show, you would generally have to provide a technical rider. Is that still a thing for the digital? Like, do you guys still need that? And what is the kind of communication that needs to happen between the performers or the producers of a performance and you guys as the technical crew and the behind the scenes? Anybody can take the question.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit
a technical writer. It's a technical writer. I mean, even in the digital space, we will still need to have.
You're breaking up a little bit, Thabo. But Wes, do you wanna jump in?
Yeah, and it's a little bit different. I mean, obviously in a live performance, there's a lot more things that you need to inform the theatre or festival about that they need to be aware of in terms of sound, lighting, staging and things like that. On the digital side, we're kind of looking at the finished product. So we need your film in the way that it needs to be, and that's our formats and things. So yeah, obviously there's specifications and things like that, but in terms of it has to be what it needs to be, the specifics. But yeah, in terms of the live, there is a lot more that you need to let the production house or festival know about requirements.
So, I mean, like, you know, like I totally hear what you're saying, Wes, and it's almost like your jobs maybe have been made a little bit easier. I don't know. Because like with the, you know, if we were going into theater, there'd be like that final dress rehearsal, they're moving into the theater, and then like, you know, you guys would have to coordinate who is doing the fly bars and who, do you know what I mean? Who's going to be the person who's doing this and like all the calls. And now you just get like a final product and then you're like, okay, cool. Is it easier? I don't know.
From me on a festival side, I mean, what happens is there is a lot more that has to happen prior to the festival. Whereas a live festival, everything is happening in the moment. So as you said, it's all the things and things. For me now, working on Jomba specifically, I've got months of preparation prior to this, of putting things together. So the running of the festival becomes a little bit easier, but the pre-production, and I think that's the same with film. Your pre-production is the where all the major work gets done, when the product is then, yeah, a little bit easier to handle. I don't know, Thabo, what's your opinion?
And I mean, true that. I mean, to prepare, we need time to prepare and to do your pre-production. I mean, similar to live performance, when there's audience and stuff. I mean, you know, you have to get yourself ready in time, and you know when you need to do the thing, you know, you've got all the information, you've got all the equipment, you've got everything needed for that. You know, I mean, the most important thing is planning, actually.
Yeah, it is about that planning, you know. And one of the things, and I think Wes, you kind of touched on this, is that there's specificities, right? When we come into the digital as to the formats that your films come through in, and what the platforms you might be using. Are you guys finding, because finding that for different festivals or for different platforms, people on the requirements shift, or is it possible for artists kind of to create something and just be able to easily transpose it, like just to send it to whatever festival is coming up, or you know, to just submit? I'm kind of trying to get towards like, when artists are now starting to create, what are the kinds of things that they should be thinking about? You know, like obviously, if you are doing a film, it would be better for the what do you call it? What is the English word? Totally just left me. You know, the landscape kind of format, instead of like, if you're shooting on a phone, some people often shoot like in the portrait, which doesn't really fill the screen. Are there any of those kinds of requirements or tips that you guys would say like this works better for a digital platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can play with the formula, but that has to be very specific choices. But again, if you do something properly the first time, if your film is in good quality, it's rendered as high as things, you can then pass that around probably to anybody who needs it. So it's again to put that effort into the pre-production so that your product is as ready as it can be. I mean, I mean, there are ways of converting things I've had to do for a couple of people on this festival. But yeah, I mean, if it works and if it's playing properly, yeah, you are a bit lucky that it can be moved around a little bit easier.
Thabo, you got anything to add there?
I think Wesley had actually touched all the things that needs to be done. I mean, yes, I mean, even before the pandemic and stuff, whenever you want to sell your work, you know, to the festivals and stuff, you had to film. Yep.
Thabo, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Can I lost you for a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, you're back. You're back. So you're saying that even before we went onto the digital platform, there was still a level of, and I think Charlene also touched on this yesterday in terms of like the marketing, is that part of kind of selling your work to a festival or to any kind of platform still requires people to kind of be able to create something that can go and be in multiple spaces. So even if I'm taking a live performance, I don't only want to take it to one festival. I want to try and get it to as many festivals as possible. So to be able to create a product that can maybe speak to various platforms and festivals in different ways. So that kind of stuff is still the same. Hey.
Yep.
Yeah. So Wes, I know that you're a lighting designer for live performances. Obviously I'm not kind of putting you on the spot in terms of like, now I'm assuming that you're also like this perfect lighting designer for film. And Thabo, you also do lighting, you do lighting management and lighting production. Is that like for film, for instance, like, obviously, if your aesthetic is that you're wanting to do a dark film and you shouldn't, people shouldn't see or whatever the case is, then that's a different thing. But is there kind of any kind of tips or pointers that you guys could say for new artists, especially new dancers who are kind of like maybe have been sitting around at home waiting for the industry to open. They've realized that it's not opening and they're wanting to play with maybe doing some films on their phone, or they've got a camera and they're wanting to shoot some stuff. Is there anything that you guys can kind of say, like these are the things that maybe perhaps you can think about? I know that like for my film, or any kind of film work that I've done, and I've done it myself, I've always shot outside in daylight because I can't afford lights, and I wouldn't know what to do with them. But like, what would you guys say like people should think about and what they can actually play with when they start to create their work and they're starting to think about like putting stuff onto camera, And then Thabo, you mentioned that you've now done a lot of work behind the camera because you've had to,
So I didn't get that.
So you had mentioned that like in the move from live to digital, that you've had to learn to kind of also be a cameraman, like to be behind a camera instead of just sitting behind a lighting box or, So is there anything that you've picked up in your kind of work as a cameraman, like in terms of like how people can maybe easily or cheaply kind of get good lighting or good kind of lighting situations going?
I mean, first things first, one should try to experiment, and play with the idea that one has. That's the most important thing. I mean, and also you just mentioned maybe trying to light it cheaply. To be honest, if you want a good product, yes, you do not have budgets and stuff, right? But then try whatever that you do, do it right, you know, get proper lighting. Doesn't have to be expensive lighting, even if basics, you know, but then it has to be proper, so that whenever you've done with your shooting, with your film, and then when you start, you know, wanting to share with us, which is the audience out there, you know, and then it can be, we can watch it and say, yes, you know, someone has done something which is beautiful, you know. One shouldn't go and try to save costs. That's I think it doesn't help. Yeah.
Wes, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on the right track. The biggest light source that you do have is the sun. I mean, that's out every day and you don't pay for it. So if you're going to start somewhere, start there. They often recommend rather to do a cloudy day as opposed to full-on sunlight, direct sunlight. So yes, start there. And there are ways of buying floodlights from hardware stores that you can use to brighten up. And it really is one of the most important things you can do to enhance your film, unless you want it moody or whatever. But if you're looking for clear visibility and improving the quality, so maybe your camera is not as good, if you're using your phone or something like that, if you increase the lighting to a certain point, it will definitely improve the overall quality of it. Yeah, so it is definitely something majorly for people to consider. No experts, but there are ways in it, as Thabo said, try it out, see what works. That's the joy. If it doesn't work, then add a little bit more or take away. But yeah, play with it.
Yeah, so it is about the experimenting. And I suppose, you know, like, I don't know, I found this, is that as we create dance forms, and for the I've actually watched quite a few dance films, is that what I start to see is that people are choreographing not these massive amounts of choreography, but it is about how they are playing with the material that they have. So you guys are really saying, like, people must go out there, they must try things out, try it under different kind of circumstances, different parts of the day, play with various kinds of things. I think also, like, to be creative, like, perhaps you are looking for a moody kind of setting. So then how do you creatively, like, bring in light, or how do you use that light is a bit of a thing that you can, like, play with, you know?
Yeah, and there are a lot of
there
are a lot of resources out there. I mean, if you go into YouTube, if you look at, I mean, it's what we're doing is not new. People have been doing it for a long time. We just, yeah, so go out and see how people are doing other things, and yeah, figure a way for yourself. Yeah.
So that is also, like, that's a really good point, is that, like, we have to also remember that film is not a new thing. Yes, Thabo? Sorry, I jumped in there. Is Thabo frozen? Can you hear me, Wes?
No. I wanted to add on what just said. You know, we don't have to. I can hear you. Where's Toby?
Okay, I can hear you a bit better now.
Yes, I'm here. Toby.
That's better. That's better. We can hear you. Can you just say that again, maybe, Thabo?
Okay. Well, what I was saying, I wanted to add on Wesley's, on what Wesley just said. Now, you know, we shouldn't be afraid. We need to play and experience there too.
Yeah. Cool. So, guys, if I can ask you, maybe to, when people are submitting work, what are the kinds of things that they must think about, and what would make your guys' lives a little bit easier in this digital kind of, in this digital space? You know, Wes, you've spoken about, like, the pre-production becomes a very important part of kind of getting everything ready and all up and stuff like that. Is there anything, so besides like submitting your work in time or early enough, is there any kind of other stuff that people can do to help you guys make sure that their work is as best presented as possible?
Yeah, I mean, for me, big thing is deadline. This year has been a bit of a tricky one from people across the world, not just here in South Africa. Deadlines are there for a reason. So when somebody asks you for something on a certain date, please ensure that you submit by then, or inform us or talk to us and let us know what's happening. Don't just let the date fly by and people think, I'm just going to fly under the radar. There's also lots of things that have to happen once you submit a film. So don't just think it's about your film is submitted and then it's ready every screen at the next day. I mean, something like Jomba, we're doing previews and then still have to assemble things together, and those things take time. So deadlines are there for a reason. Please follow them. Nothing will annoy the festival team more than that. And as I said, just we send out information, read the information that you're asked to, and things, how we want it sent, what formats, and if you don't know what it is, ask. Rather talk to us. We're not going to scream and shout and moan at you. We're here to help you, and we're here to make the best things possible. So if you're unsure, rather ask, and then we can put things together. It makes our lives a whole lot easier. So yeah, just ask if you're unsure.
Yeah. Thabo, for you, what are the things that might make your job in this digital space a little bit easier?
I mean, the most important thing is communication, correct? One has to communicate. It's either with the artist, all the sectors of performance. Communication is the key. Once one communicates, and if you're not sure, as Wesley said, if you're not sure, ask questions. We're here to help. It's that communication and it's that relationship that we need to have with artists and stuff. Yep.
Yeah, communication is so key. Like it's so strange, right? Because we've moved into digital, you think like people would communicate more because we don't see each other. I think sometimes, like we used to I'll see them in the theater, then I'll ask the questions or whatever. But I think now that we are all like in our own homes or, in these very separated spaces, communication is such an important thing.
That's true for a live festival as well. I mean, there's nothing new in that. That should be, when we're working live or digitally, communication is 100% key. And it becomes, in the live, it becomes a bit more of a negotiation where you're trying to, this is what we can offer, this is what you need, and things like that. In the digital, as you said, we're looking for the product. But yeah, just talk to us, ask us questions. We're here to help.
Yeah. So also, Wesley, you mentioned something about that it's not just about the film arriving, but it's also all the stuff that happens pre the actual festival. So there's stuff like releasing marketing material where like little trailers will be sent out, or like little teasers will be sent out. Do you guys think that people who are creating dance films should be creating their own trailers? Is that a good practice to be getting into? Because I know that like having spoken to you because we're both part of Jomba, we've had a lot of like behind the scenes kind of meetings and stuff like that. And you've spoken about you having to edit things together. Would it make your lives easier, the both of you, if people had already created trailers or that kind of stuff when they submit their films?
100% again, because otherwise it's going to be my view of what I see in your work as the highlights, which often it is. But if it was your view of what you wanted to point out, again, you make my life easier. So do the trailers, do the pictures, tying on to what Charlene was saying yesterday. The more information and things you can give us, the better it will be. Otherwise, we're going to do whatever we want, and it might not be what you want.
Yeah. That's true. I remember last year, I think it was last year, maybe it was earlier this year. I was asked to be on a panel, and like pretty last minute, they said to me, we've got an opportunity to show 5 minutes of one of your works. And I'd created a film that was 10 minutes long. And so, and I didn't have, at the time, I didn't have a laptop. So I created the film. It was like a few months old or whatever the case is. And yeah, you're completely right. Like what they eventually put together out of my film, I was like, I don't think anybody would ever want to watch this. So yeah, I will take that one. Like that's definitely has been a learning for me, is that if you have the ability to, then whilst you are doing the edit or whoever is doing your edit for you, they should maybe think about already at that stage creating a little trailer that you could then send to the festival platform as a teaser or whatever it is. Would you guys say that like when creating trailers, because like some people's trailers can be like 3 minutes long, is that a good idea? Should we keep the trailers shorter? Is there any kind of like yeah, maybe information you can give us around that? You know, what works, what doesn't work?
I would go with shorter. I mean, especially these days when it comes to things like Instagram, you've got a minute before it goes into the next format to play. I would go with keep it short and sweet, find the highlights.
Yes, Thabo, you were also saying?
Yes, I was saying it's better to keep your trailer as short as possible. You know, a minute and a half or 2 minute teaser is perfect because I mean once let's say we would gather all those trailers and then you put them together for instance festival, you know, then you can upload them and then send it out and people can see, you know, all different works within the span of time, you know. The shorter the better.
Cool. Yeah. I also, yeah, as you were also saying that idea that like certain social media platforms are only built to kind of accommodate certain things as well is a good thing to think about. So for stuff like, okay, so for instance, Jomba, when it comes on, there's like that whole intro that comes in and the sticking on of like the branding and all of that stuff. Artists don't have to worry about that, right? That's stuff that like festivals will do themselves.
Yes, definitely. I mean, obviously, yeah, we kind of have things and overlays that we do. So same for pictures and same, right, keep it clean and simple. Titles I would do in terms of how you want your title to do. At the beginning or any credits and things, and because that is for me a little bit of a taste, and maybe I don't use it, but at least it's there. But yeah, you don't have to worry. I mean, the festival, that's why we have festival branding and things, so we will do what's needed in that regard. Keep it clean and simple, and to the point.
Have you guys, so I'm now going to go off a little bit and I just want to hear from like your own personal experiences, like anecdotal stuff, because I think we've covered most of like the technical stuff. But I mean, like, what are some of your experiences? Have you had any really funny situations or really difficult situations that you've had to kind of deal with in this past year and a half, I think it is, we're at now with the whole COVID vibe, where you're just like, how did this person even think that this would work? Or, you know, like, I can't believe that this is what I've gotten and now I've got to kind of make some kind of magic. Have you guys had any of those kinds of things, or have people been pretty good? You guys there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear my question? Sorry, I don't know. I don't know if you heard my question. But I was just asking if, like, from your experiences in the past, like, year and a half of being in this situation, and having to work digital and having to kind of just like figure it out on the fly. Have you had any situations where it's kind of been super difficult or like really funny, or like things have, you know, like you kind of been put in a bit of a like weird situation and had to figure we're now just trying to be nosy people and to hear the behind the scenes stories that might come.
I mean, I had fun moments in you know, in these digital things that you do. I mean, and also, I mean, mainly it was music, and you know, for a change, it was the first time where I saw musicians behave, because you know how musicians are in terms of them wanting them having needs and stuff, you know, and it was so cool, you know, working with musicians, and I think the way they think, the pandemic changed the way of us of thinking, you know, and just great. And behind the camera I was like nodding my head and saying, like, you know, it's the first time, you know, looking at them and behaving in a certain way, you know, they were well mannered, they had all their masks and stuff, you know, they were on time, because you know musicians rock up like 10 minutes before the show, but then they were there on time and did the whole thing together, you know, it was amazing. Yep, I had fun moments.
Nice. So you're saying that like this digital thing has kind of made people take their lives a little bit more seriously and kind of get there and do the right thing.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. And which is a good thing. I mean, yes.
Definitely a good thing. And you, Wes, any kind of situations where like you've kind of been like, oh my gosh, like, or really like positive things, like Thabo's just said, you know, like I think that's a plus.
I think most people have embraced it pretty openly. So I've got to say, overall, people who have been making films and things, there's been no real major issues. I mean, the only one I can really think of anecdotally was trying to record something via Zoom with people, live performance with musicians in one place, performers in one place, me in one place, and just everybody's internet would not behave at the same time. I then did end up having to edit 3 parts of 3 different Zooms together to make it look like it was happening live. But ultimately, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, the internet is a very, very strange place that doesn't always allow us to do exactly what it is that we want to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's like, it's so true, hey? Like, I mean, like even in our webinars, like yesterday, our webinar I was so glitchy and I kept dropping out and stuff like that. There's a serious like thing of being completely reliant on a thing that we cannot control at all. Do you know what I mean? We don't know when somebody's going to freeze. We don't know how to work around that. And I wonder, like, you know, some people are thinking about like doing live digital performances. Like how, like, you know, how does that, is that something that you guys recommend? Do you think we are at that stage where we are able to, or do you think in South Africa where our internets and the interwebs are sometimes not so great, you know, like that's not a space that we can move into yet?
I think it's a bit tough. I mean, there are some people doing it. I mean, I think Neil Coppin did it very well with his Macbeth, I mean, again, still with some technical difficulties. And I mean, Ian Ewok Robinson did a jigsaw with people also across the world. So, I mean, it is possible, but it is difficult for a lot of people. And that's the reality of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Thabo, you got anything to add to that? The trying to do like live performance, but screening them digitally.
You know, I think what should happen, and you know, we need to involve our live audience as well, so we can start thinking of doing hybrid performances where we have a limited people, you know, on site, and then upload the stuff in real time. You know, I think in that way, you know, because we know we've got like people who love to see live performance happening, but then we can accommodate them in terms of doing our hybrid performances. I mean, half and half, that's my thinking.
Yeah, and I know that the National Arts Festival this year tried to do the hybrid, and I think they went into the various cities. So instead of the artists all coming into Makhanda, they went into Johannesburg and they went to Durban, and I think there was some stuff happening in the Eastern Cape and some stuff happening in Cape Town. Thabo, did you work on any of that kind of stuff for the National Arts Festival this year?
Unfortunately, it was the time when we were creating Robin's work in Paris during the time. So I was not involved in any of the festival this year.
Oh yeah, you were in Paris. Sorry, my bad. And were you pulled into any of the National Arts Festival stuff?
I was again also already working on Jomba, but I mean, I did watch a fair amount of things, and I think for those who can, I think this will be going forwards kind of ways that we can also open up, so that you don't have to be in Makhanda to watch somebody performing. You can watch it. Yeah, so we open up access. So those who can, and those kind of build those institutions, theatres, festivals that can offer these multimodal ways of viewing, it just increases the possibilities. So maybe not a terrible thing either, to have those combined, and we might get to see things that we never would have the opportunity to see before.
100%. I think the beautiful thing about digital is that it starts to open up the access, to things that we wouldn't be able to see necessarily on our shores or even in our own hometown. So that's absolutely great. Guys, we're getting close to the end of it, and I see that there's been 2 questions from Claire Craighead, where she's asking, in terms of the technical rider, does the artist designate what their preferences are, or do they receive information from the production team in terms of what is available to them? I don't know which one of you guys want to maybe comment on that. I think we have touched a bit on it earlier in the conversation about, like, people must also be aware of the information that the festival or the production team is sending. But are there any spaces for artists, maybe we can ask that question, for artists to set their own preferences? Like, say, I don't know what those preferences might be, whether it's, I don't know. So maybe I can put an example. There was something that I watched, and the box, so it didn't fill up the screen. So the film never filled up the screen. It was kind of like a framed within the bigger frame. Are those kinds of preferences that artists can set for themselves, or are there any other preferences that artists can set or ask for?
Yes, it's again, the 2 things I think there. So in terms of a live performance, festival, or whatever it is, it becomes a bit of, this is what the festival or theatre can offer. This is what I'm looking for as a artist or creative, and it becomes a bit of a negotiation. And that also has levels within it. If you are an invited guest to the festival, you're going to have a lot more of your requirements met. If you want a fringe program, you're then having to abide more to the festival, what the festival can offer you. So in terms of a live performance, I think it's a little bit different. But in terms of the digital, again, yes, as I said earlier, you can set preferences, but you have to let us know. You can't just assume that that's, you send something and you go, well, they're just going to know how to play it. I mean, something that's like YouTube, I mean, if you're on a platform with other people, it becomes a little bit difficult. So everything is to the box of the screen, because that's how the rest of the festival has been set up. If you're wanting it to be just that, then you've got to, yeah, there are ways, but it again depends on how you are involved in the platform.
Yeah. Any comments from you, Thabo?
Wes, I didn't get your last sentence. Can you repeat what you just said? Sorry, I'm keep on losing you guys now and then.
Oh yeah, you go, Wes.
Yeah, it was just to say that it's different between the live and the digital. And again, as I said, it depends on where you are in the structure. If you're on the fringe or a combined program versus being a invited performer or something, that negotiation becomes different. But again, you have to stipulate what it is that you're looking for and looking to do.
Yeah, true that. As I said, and communication is key. We can help, or we can do so much to artists in terms of their needs. The certain things that we can do and the things that we cannot do. But we try always to find a way to do what what's required for the production. But then the different needs and communication is the key as well.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, guys. And then the second question from Claire Craighead is, for those less familiar with technical lingo, so the language and the kind of terminologies that you guys are using, what advice would you offer in terms of accessing the language of the technical? Oh, yeah, you guys. You speak to that.
Yes. We're gonna go back to communication as well. I mean, yes, theater terminology. It's a bit difficult, for artists as well. But then it's a thing that if you know what you want, ask a question, because I had an instance where there was this company who moved in, and then the lighting guy came in, and he was like, I want a dark stand. So I went to the lighting room, I brought a dark stand, and I put it on, I gave it to him. I said, here's a dark stand. I said, no, I don't want this. I want a light, I said, a dark stand is just a base. There's no light. You have to ask for a specific light. In this theater, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's that communication, also us willing to teach performers about the terminology and about what we use in theater, basically.
Wes, you got anything to add to that? Thank you, Thabo. And I think that it's important what you say is that we're all always learning, right? So it is about that communication and talking to each other about it. But Wes, do you have anything that you want to add in terms of any kind of technical lingo that people should know? Or, I mean, for me, I only learned about a rider in the past 2 years. I was like, what, rider?
No, it's again, it's experience, and it's working and being involved, and you learn. I mean, I'm not formally trained in doing technical. I've learned all of this via practice. I mean, it's not, and that was through physically working, asking people things, looking up what it might be. I mean, it's not that you have to be an expert. These are things that you can learn, and you learn through doing and asking. Maybe not always right in the middle of a show or a setup, but if there's something unclear or whatever, ask. That we're not big bad people that you can't approach. We're here, as Thabo said, to help you. We all want the production to be the best thing that it can be. So if you're unsure, ask, call it what you want to call it, and I'm sure we'll figure it out. I mean, we also travel and we deal with people in foreign languages. So we've all had to try and work with a French lighting designer that you have no idea what they're asking for, but we find a way to figure it out. And there are ways. Don't be scared. And call it what you like. You said, we'll eventually figure out, oh, that's what you're looking for. Okay, we'll go get one. But yeah, try and be as specific as possible for what it is that you're looking to do, because then we'll understand what it is.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you guys is that specificity, you know, like know exactly what it is you want. And your guys' job kind of is to provide that support, that you're not trying to make anybody look bad. You're not trying to bomb out their show. Just as much as they are wanting to have a fabulous show, you're also wanting them to have a fabulous show. So to keep those communication lines open, to know what you want, because I think that's also part of it, right? I know when I first ever kind of created a work and I put it on stage, I didn't know what was available to me. Do you know what I mean? And so it was kind of just going like, I wanted to kind of look like this. And I suppose if I thought more about or prepared more within myself as to this is exactly what I would like it to look like, and maybe spend some time communicating with the lighting designer or the production manager or the stage manager to say to them, this is what I'm going for, what is available, right? And what can you guys do? That's kind of what your job is. Hey, and I think maybe we're scared to kind of acknowledge that and then go with it. Guys, is there anything else that you guys would like to add or would like to, like any do's and don'ts that you would like to put out there? We've got about 6 minutes left. So is there anything that for you guys as the people who we never see when we go and watch a performance, because you're always behind the scenes and you're often dealing with a lot of demands or asks, or, you know, what would be the things that you guys would like to say to future artists that you work with, for people who are delving into the digital or people who are going into the live or the hybrid when we go into, you know, the more we move into that kind of stuff? Is there any kind of stuff that you would like to just, you know, this is a moment for you guys to say, oh, finally a platform, this is what I want. Any do's, any don'ts? I don't know. Thabo, do you want to go first maybe? And then Wes, we can have you next.
I mean, just to keep it simple, communicate properly, and have a relationship with artists. You know, we need to start having a closer relationship with artists. On side, but then, you know, using the digital platform, you know, communicate better, you know, and work together.
And for you, Wes?
Yeah, I mean, as Thabo said, communication is key. We're here to work with you, and it's a two-way partnership that goes hand in hand together, whether it be live, whether it be digital. And yeah, if those lines of communication are not open, then it becomes harder and harder to work. Yeah.
Sweet, guys. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on this platform, for agreeing to be on the front side this time and not, you know, behind the scenes vibes. I think for me, what I've learned from today is that definitely to be prepared, to get your stuff in well in time, because if there are any issues, then there's at least a little bit of room to kind of, you know, have that communication back and forth with either a festival or whatever kind of platform that you are submitting digital work to. I think also what has come up again and again in this conversation today is this idea of open lines of communication, that, you know, it's so vital that there is a relationship between the artist and the technical crew and the technical staff, that artists must also realize that we really do need you guys, and that you guys are there to support us. So to lean on each other, but also to be, you know, fair in terms of like not waiting till the very last minute to kind of then be like, have millions of demands on people, you know? And I think also this idea of reading, you know, reading and understanding what the festival is requiring from the artist, and being prepared to deliver that. And if you can't, communicating to say, I don't understand what this means. How can I do this? Because I know, like, Wes, you've definitely helped me with some of my stuff where I'm like, oh, I have to do this whole thing now, and like I don't know how to do it. And you kind of said to me, like, try, and then if you've got questions, ask. If I don't know, we'll work it out together. And I think that also speaks to what Thabo was saying, is building relationships. I mean, to have an 18-year-old relationship with the wonderful Robin Orlin, I'm very jealous of your life. Build those relationships so that you have a language and you have a way of communicating to each other, and you can preempt each other's needs and choices. So again, guys, thank you so much for sharing what you know, for also breaking down that barrier, I think, because I think that's important, is that when we don't have these conversations, we just assume about the other party. So thank you for that. To our audience today, thank you for joining us. Tomorrow we will have our third and final Forging Alliances panel, and that will be bridging the music gap. So we will have Roland Nzanzu from Kapaso, and he will be in conversation with myself and with Sfiso Kumalo, who is a choreographer who also sometimes makes music. So thank you all very much, and have a wonderful afternoon. Tonight on the Jomba platform is the Digital Edge. So if everybody can log in at 7 p.m., there are 6 wonderful choreographers from Durban who've been given small grants to create work. And today those works will be premiering, and they'll stay on the festival platform until the end of the festival. But if anybody else has any last things to say before I say goodbye to everyone, are we all good?
All good. Thank you, Toby.
All good. Yeah.
All good. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon. And Thabo, that baby is so gorgeous. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks.